Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
They're here.
Come to Freddy.
I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in.
Nobody trusts anybody now. And we're all very tired.
We'll tear your soul apart. You're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. One movie each week. 30 years in the making.
Welcome to the 30-something movie podcast. It is episode number 269, Leviathan and Shocker. We are going to do two movies this time around because we realized, or I realized at least, that when we got into October, our schedules got probably a little thrown off, and maybe throwing in the Joker episode kind of messed with some things there, so it's not October anymore for anybody who's counting, but we did have two movies left for our Halloween month, so we're going to finish those off, and then next week we're going to get into our first November movie, which will be Abyss, so we'll be getting into that one next week. So this time is Leviathan and Shocker together in the one episode. Tonight I have with me two gentlemen that may need no introduction, but I'll introduce them anyway. First of all, I have Patrick Cantagallo.
Hey.
How you doing, Pat?
I'm doing well, John. How are you doing?
Good. I am, except for the intimidating work meeting that I went to this afternoon that just scared the pants off me, I'm doing fine.
Well, that's good. Why was it intimidating?
Just there's some big stuff coming in the educational technology world that is going to cause some stuff.
Gotcha.
That's the best way I can say it right now. I mean, you work in the district that I am the technology director for, so all I'm going to tell you is, by the time you and the rest of the teachers hear about it, I am going to have a plan, and it's going to sound a lot less scary.
Got it.
We'll just put it that way.
So you weren't intimidated by people in the meeting.
Oh, no.
You were intimidated by this thing.
I was intimidated by the wisdom and foresight of the legislation of the great state of Illinois.
Gotcha.
That is a very good way to put that.
Thank you. I worked really hard on thinking of what to say for about 3 seconds.
Very nice.
Yeah. That other voice you hear, the dulcet tones, are Bo Lovefest Warmfold. Bo, how are you doing?
I'm quite well, John.
Good.
Quite well.
You went to that same meeting I went to, so
I am. I'm ready to sink my teeth into something not dreamed up by our legislative...
Something still a little bit monstrous, and maybe just as deadly, but not quite as affecting our day-to-day jobs. We'll put it that way.
Yes.
Like I said, this time around, we got Leviathan and Shocker. Very, very quickly, we spoil movies. We talk movies, we spoil them, we talk freely, so just be aware of that. If you hear a movie if we mention the title of a movie and you're like, nope, don't want to hear it, maybe jump ahead 20 seconds or so on your podcast app, wherever you're listening. iTunes reviews, please leave us an iTunes review. We would love to hear from you. A 5-star review would be awesome, but an honest review is best. So let us know what you're liking about the show, maybe what you're not liking about the show. We would really, really appreciate that. We were still, I think, obviously we dipped a little bit because, it's a day-to-day thing, but we were up there pretty high in the rankings in the iTunes film history section, so that was pretty cool. We strive to get back there again, so, I know it's like you have to have many, many downloads every day to stay there, but, I think we get our little boost once a week when we have our episodes come out, so... And then visit our website, 30podcast.com. That is the best way to find all the different ways to listen to our show. So head over to 30podcast.com and you can find the voicemail line, our letterbox page, all that other stuff you can get from our website. I have some very, very quick movie news things. We can, maybe comment on them real fast and then we'll move on to our movies. So very, very quickly, I don't know that there's too much commentary to go with this one, but I did see the other day that Ant-Man 3 begins filming in January 2021.
Excellent.
Are you gentlemen fans of the Ant-Man movies?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. Now, I did see that Paul Rudd, for Halloween, wore what I have decided I will be wearing next year.
Yeah.
Did you see this picture?
I did,
yeah.
Okay. So, apparently his daughter went dressed as the Wasp from the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie.
Oh, very nice.
And he went dressed as Weird Al.
Excellent.
So he had like the long-haired curly wig. He carried a little toy accordion with him. He had the Hawaiian shirt, the full getup. So I think I've decided that maybe I might do a Weird Al costume next year for Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe sing some songs. So, all right. Terminator Dark Fate gets decent reviews, but it bombs at the box office. It had a $29 million opening weekend, which is no bueno for an action movie and a Terminator movie. So did either of you guys get a chance to go see it?
No.
No,
I have not.
I wanted to, but I haven't had time yet. So I still would like to see it while it's in the
I
theater.
still want to, for sure.
And I've heard people say that, compared with the other Terminator movies, that it is the third best Terminator movie after 2 and 1. So people seem to really like it, and it seemed to get pretty decent reviews, but people did not go see it.
Well, I'm just going to say, I mean, it kind of came out, now maybe I'm not looking at the right circles, but it seemed to kind of come out with not a lot of fanfare. Like, just think of what you guys want, saying, I want to go see it, but didn't get a chance to. Right. And it's kind of like, I don't know, mid-October, or was it Halloween? I guess that would be end of October, wouldn't it?
Yeah, actually, it was just this last weekend.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, I mean, you got Halloween and everything going on. Like, maybe, I don't know, is this a sleeper that...
It does sort of feel like they kind of released it on the QT.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, because, I mean, I'm from the generation of, like, watching the TV and seeing them put ads on the TV, but it's just like, I don't know. It was like, oh, that's out. At some point, I'm going to have to go see that. That was kind of my reaction.
All right. Into the Spider-Verse 2 got a release date. It'll be coming out spring 2022. Did either of you guys get to see the original Into the Spider-Verse movie?
No, I've heard amazing things, but I have not seen it. It's on my list.
It's very good.
Yeah, we saw it. Family saw it. It was like popular with everybody in the family. Yeah.
Even family that doesn't like cartoons, like, they thought it was a good movie. So that was good stuff. So I'm looking forward to Into the Spider-Verse 2. Of course, I always love anything that's like an alternate reality type thing. So the more they want to bring in, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
The last thing I've got is Star Wars news. Apparently, Rian Johnson, there's been some news going back and forth about what's going to happen next after Rise of Skywalker. And Rian Johnson was originally talking about doing another trilogy, or at least one other movie after this, and on different characters, not following the Skywalker story, but in the Star Wars universe. Some people, I think, thought that trilogy was dead, that it was not going anywhere. And the big trilogy that was coming next was the creators, or the showrunners of Game of Thrones, Benioff and Weiss, that they had their next one out, and a lot of people, I think, were really excited about that, because I think some people, including myself, figured, well, wait a minute, they got the showrunners from Game of Thrones. If they go back and do like the old Tales of the Jedi comics, which take place like 2,000 years, 5,000 years before the Skywalker stories, that could be really cool to have like a cross between Game of Thrones and Star Wars.
And safe.
Yeah. But apparently those guys are out. I guess they did some massive deal with Netflix and said goodbye to Star Wars, or Star Wars may have said goodbye to them. So I don't know, and I don't know what's coming next, but you know what I am excited for Star Wars wise is everything that's coming on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting, huh?
Because I keep watching that trailer for The Mandalorian, and yeah.
Keeps getting cooler.
Mm-hmm. So I am very excited for that. I'm very excited for the Obi-Wan. I've already said that several times. Very excited for the Obi-Wan series that they're going to do. So yeah, sign me up. I am on board.
Cool.
The only thing that bothers me is now we have another streaming service to manage and deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Between CBS All Access and Disney Plus, and the requisite Netflix or Hulu or both, it's just starting to get a little much.
Well, and that's something, you know what, we're going to do, we haven't signed up for the Disney Plus yet, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to do the bundled one where you get Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN.
Yeah, that's a good one.
$12 a month or whatever bundle, it is. Yeah. Because we don't have cable, so that would be a nice one for us to be able to get our sports and TV shows and all that stuff.
I'm holding off on any decision, and unfortunately it means I'm holding off probably till about March. I'm holding off on any large decision about changing my television viewing till I find out what's happening with the new Cubs network.
Yeah.
Once I find out where I'll be able to get that is going to make some large changes in my house.
That could change a few things.
Because I've kept cable around mostly for that.
Mm-hmm.
I can duplicate most of what we do somewhere else, but it hasn't been worth the effort to do so.
Yeah.
So my hope of hopes is that I can get the Cubs network on YouTube TV, because that would handle everything else that I'm not currently getting.
Right.
And the unlimited DVR doesn't hurt on YouTube TV.
True. That's also true.
I guess I have to look into YouTube TV. Now, is YouTube TV different than that, like YouTube Red and all that kind of stuff? Okay.
Although there are bundles where you can get like the whole YouTube premium package with the music and the TV and the whatnot. But YouTube TV, awesome. I did the trial of it. I loved it. I loved everything about it. There were just some things I still couldn't get, and it just wasn't worth it.
Interesting.
It's only worth it if you can replace something you're already doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, I'll have to look into that, because you're always looking for the different thing. And we've got an antenna, Netflix, and what's the other one? The shopping. Oh, Amazon. And it's like that gets us by. But I'm always kind of on the search for, okay, is this worth it? Because as it looks right now, a lot of these new streaming services, it's like, oh man, I love The Mandalorian. I love this. And I'm really like the Picard show. I'm gonna figure that one out really quick. But it's like, that's where I'm at, because like I can't get sucked into, I'm gonna get this streaming service and this streaming, like it's like they got to show me something really special if they want me to switch. So I'm always on the search for, what is this option? What is it? Just to know what's out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all I got news-wise. Do you guys have anything else that you've heard of lately?
No, other than the Disney Plus, and then the Apple TV Plus. I watched a show the other day. Some cool stuff on there. Jason Momoa's new series looks good, although I have not watched it yet. I hope to maybe catch some of that tonight.
Okay.
But the morning show, not genre at all, nothing really that we would normally discuss. But I have to say, the first episode of the morning show with Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, and Steve Carell was pretty good.
Okay. I always tend to like the news shows, so, since I started college as a journalism major, when they did what was it, on Showtime, The Newsroom?
Oh, so good.
Loved that show. That was, for me, that was like,
Aaron Sorkin didn't.
Well, right. And West Wing was just awesome. And Sharon loved that, because when she was in college, she went into poli-sci, and that was her thing. And I love the West Wing too. But then we get into The Newsroom, and I'm like, oh, so now we have Aaron Sorkin in journalism. I am on board. Let's do more of this. So
I will say the morning show could benefit from some of Sorkin's faster pacing.
Okay.
But that's, not to belabor the point, but I think the ability of these streaming services to not be beholden to network TV norms is just as exciting as the amount of content they were able to deliver.
Okay.
They can decide that we're going to make an hour of television, and we're going to take the time to show these reactions and to show someone sitting in a chair for a minute dealing with what just happened, as opposed to having to move on to the next beat.
Mm-hmm.
And while I think our attention spans, and I said is firmly saying that last night I had this problem, aren't tuned to that right now, hopefully this will help recalibrate it. I think it was very interesting the way they chose to take those moments in the morning show when they're dealing with a pretty heavy topic.
I will say I watched a lot of Smallville, so I'm used to having people just stare at each other for a few minutes before, talking about, as they stare each other out with their teen angst and their everything else. I'm used to that, so I'm pretty good.
Oh, then you will be fine. No teen angst, but adult angst this time around.
Yeah, when half of an episode is like quizzical looks or longing looks or angry looks or
No, you're really good with this then.
Okay, all right. Last thing I will say before we move on to talking about our movies is I did see that there is an announcement that they are developing a new show for the CW to add to all the superhero shows. It is Superman and Lois. So they are going to be using now I haven't watched the episodes where they did the crossover this last year from Arrow and Flash and Supergirl and all those. But apparently they introduced a Lois Lane character in those episodes. And I guess the premise of this show is it's going to be the Tyler Hoechlin Superman. The one who's been Superman in the Supergirl TV show.
Yeah.
And he's been really good. Every time we've seen him in it, I thought he's a great Clark Kent.
Yeah.
He's a really good Superman. They're going to add in Lois from the episodes that they did this year. And apparently the premise of the show is going to be Superman and Lois, and they have a child who's probably about 10 or so, which is what they've had in the comics so far. Like that was that's been the really popular run of Superman for the last few years, is that it's Superman and Lois, and they've got like a 10-year-old kid. And he is starting to get his powers, and they have to deal with, it's like Superman has to save the world, but he's also a dad.
Okay.
So it's been kind of I really liked the Superman comics the last few years. I kind of was as much of a fan as I am. It was kind of hit or miss there for a whole bunch of years, but what they've done lately is just, I really like it. So if that's the direction they're going with the TV show, I am on board 110%. Sign me up.
Cool.
All right, let's see, Leviathan. Let's do Leviathan first. So I'm going to run through the info on both movies all at once right now, and then I'll start with Leviathan, then we can switch to Shocker at some point, and then we'll just kind of go from there. But so we'll start off with Leviathan. So our first movie tonight was released on the 17th of March, 1989, rated R with a runtime of 1 hour and 38 minutes. Directed by George P. Cosmatos, who died in 2005. He also directed Tombstone, Rambo First Blood Part 2, and Cobra. Producers were Aurelio De Laurentiis and Luigi De Laurentiis. Luigi died in 1992, and Mario was very sad. Aurelio produced Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. Luigi produced Unbelievable Adventures of Italians in Russia. Writers on this one were David Webb Peoples, who did the story and screenplay, and Jeb Stewart, who did the screenplay. Peoples also wrote Blade Runner and 12 Monkeys. Stewart wrote The Fugitive and Die Hard. Cinematography was done by Alex Thompson, who died in 2007, did the cinematography for Superman and Legend. Music was done by Jerry Goldsmith, who died in 2004. He did many Star Trek movies, Alien, Poltergeist, the Rambo movies, and so on and so on. Budget for this one, $20 million. Box office was 15.7, so it did not make its money back. Rotten Tomatoes critics give it a 17%. Rotten Tomatoes audience gives it a 26%. IMDb gives it a 58%. Letterboxd gives it a 58%. And CinemaScore gives it a C+. Starring Peter Weller as Stephen Beck. He was in the RoboCop movies and The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. Richard Crenna, who died in 2003, played Dr. Glenn Doc Thompson. He was in the Rambo movies and The Real McCoys TV series. Amanda Pays played Elizabeth Willie Williams. She was in Max Headroom and both of the Flash TV series, the 90s and the new one. Daniel Stern played Buzz Six-Pack Parrish. He was in the Home Alone movies, City Slickers movies, and the narrator of The Wonder Years. Ernie Hudson, that's a big Twinkie, played Justin Jones. He was in Ghostbusters 1 and 2 and The Crow. Michael Carmine, who died in 1989, played Tony De Jesus Rodero. He was in Batteries Not Included and MASH, the movie. Lisa Eilbacher played Bridget Bowman. She was in Beverly Hills Cop and An Officer and a Gentleman. Hector Elizondo played G.P. Cobb. He was in Pretty Woman, Runaway Bride, and The Princess Diaries. Meg Foster played Miss Martin. She was in They Live and Masters of the Universe. Eugene Lipinski was the Russian ship captain. He was in Superman 2 and The Recruit. And Tom Woodruff Jr. was the lead creature. He was in The Monster Squad, Pumpkinhead, and Alien 3. Next up is Shocker. Shocker came out on the 27th of October, 1989, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour 49 minutes. Directed by Wes Craven, who died in 2015. He also directed A Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream. Producers were Baron Kumar, who died in 1989. Kumar also produced To Die For. And the other producer was Marianne Maddalena, who also produced Scream 2 and Red Eye. Writer was Wes Craven, who also did The Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes, and A Nightmare on Elm Street. Cinematography was done by Jacques Heitken, who also did A Nightmare on Elm Street, Maniac Cop 3, and Wishmaster. Music was done by William Goldstein, who did the Fame TV series, An Eye for an Eye, and Forced Vengeance. Budget is unknown. Box office was $16.6 million. Reviews for this one, Rotten Tomatoes critics give it a 24%. Rotten Tomatoes audience gives it a 30%. IMDb gives it a 55%, and Letterboxd gives it a 56%. CinemaScore did not have one for this one. Starring Mitch Pileggi as Horace Pinker. Is it Pileggi or Pileggi? Does anybody know?
Pelagi? I don't know.
I don't know. He was.
I think it depends on how Italian he is.
That's true. He was Skinner in the X-Files movies and TV series, and he was also in Basic Instinct. John Tesh played a TV newscaster. He was also in He Said, She Said, and Eye of the Storm. Michael Murphy played Lieutenant Don Parker. He was in Manhattan and Nashville. Heather Langenkamp played the victim. She was in Nightmare on Elm Street movies and Just the 10 of Us. Let's see. Peter Berg was Jonathan Parker. He was in Chicago Hope and Collateral. Jessica Craven played Counterperson. She was in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Camille Cooper played Allison. She was in Lawnmower Man 2, Beyond Cyberspace, and Meet the Applegates. Richard Brooks played Rhino. He was in The Crow, City of Angels, and the Law & Order TV series. Sam Scarber played Cooper. He was in Over the Top and The Karate Kid. Ted Raimi played Pac-Man. He was in Twin Peaks, Ash vs. Evil Dead, and Midnight Meat Train, because that's just fun to say. And Brent Spiner played talk show guest, uncredited. He was in Star Trek The Next Generation and the Independence Day movies. Here are the trailers for both movies, and we'll be back in just a second.
It was an experiment that tampered with nature's most basic laws. It went terribly wrong. It was buried 5 miles down. Now, a crew of undersea miners is about to stumble upon this terrifying secret.
Shack to 7. What's going on out there, Williams?
My God, are you picking this up?
Look at that. Leviathan.
Currently with a Russian fleet in the Baltic Sea.
Currently it's rusted junk and we're looking at it. What's your air reading?
20 minutes.
Do something quick. We've lost him. My crew's in jeopardy.
But you have no proof.
I'm ordering you to start an emergency medical evacuation.
What if it turns out to be nothing?
Help me. That's already killed one man.
My rebreather stopped. I'm losing compression. I can't breathe.
Whatever got Six-Pack and Bowman, it's still here.
I feel something. Somebody's alive in here.
What's going on? Six-Pack.
Six-Pack, answer. Don't go in there. Don't touch anything. What are you trying to tell us, Doc?
It absorbs the intelligence of its victims.
Thank goodness you're still alive.
When are you coming?
I say we protect ourselves. Leviathan.
We are here today to bear witness to the execution of Horace Pinker, whose unspeakable atrocities have horrified the people of this great state. He stands convicted of 52 counts of aggravated assault, 23 counts of armed robbery, and 37 counts of murder in the first degree. Prisoner, have any final words?
Yeah. No more Mr. Nice Guy.
I don't think he's dead.
Contact. He's among you.
Now, Wes Craven brings you his greatest creation.
No more!
Shocker.
All right, so starting with our first movie, first one we're going to talk about is Leviathan, and we may, kind of blend some of this a little bit together as we go through them. So, Leviathan, I have some questions. As I mentioned before, I've taken some questions and kind of adapted them from a book, and I did order a copy of the book, so I'm going to read that book and maybe get some more questions out of it. But the book is called Focused: The Art and Soul of Cinema, and so I have some questions that I want to use to kind of be consistent in some of our movie talks as we're going forward. So I have some questions for you gentlemen tonight. So first of all, in watching Leviathan, how did this movie make you feel? And you can even think about a couple of follow-up questions to that. Maybe in terms of how it made you feel, what worked well and what didn't work well for you. So Bo, when you watch this one, How do you feel?
It creeped me out. It definitely triggers me a little. Water and dark water that you can't see through have always freaked me out. So it definitely triggered me that way. I have a recurring nightmare about sharks. It's a whole thing. So it kind of spooked me until,
until you saw the creature.
Well, yeah, until it got silly. And you started to see people's faces kind of half in the creature, and then it just got goofy. And yeah, it got real B-movie creature effecty, and then the scary went away, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, well, because you've got like the faces in the creature. They've done that in. Didn't they do that in one of the versions of, or was it maybe the old original version of Little Shop of Horrors?
Yes.
And they did it in one of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it, I feel like, much better in those movies. So I think you're right. I mean, I think for me too, it was when you got to the creature effects, it just was not, it very much looked like a large, slimy, rubbery suit.
Yeah.
So what worked well for you in this movie? If that didn't work well, what did work well for you? Was it the fact that you were creeped out by the underwater part?
The early underwater stuff was good. I think they did a really good job of being able to show us the people working in the suits, but still let us see the actors. I think the cast helped a lot. I mean, you've got for the B-movie feel of this movie, you know, you're starting off with Peter Weller and Richard Crenna. That's not exactly, you're not exactly starting with B-movie stars. Hector Elizondo's halfway down the list, but he's pretty good. You bring some comic relief with Ernie Hudson. He was hysterical, especially at the end. You know, if Ghostbusters was R-rated, I feel like, some of the lines from this movie could have been dropped right in. and the homage to Die Hard at the end with Peter Weller was pretty good too. So there's a lot of solid stuff here. It just veered into B-movie monster maybe a little too much. It might have benefited from less is more. Don't show us the monster.
Yeah.
Just show us the tentacles, maybe. Don't do it. Resist the urge. Keep the suspense up other ways, I feel like.
Yeah.
I liked it more than I thought I was going to.
Oh, okay. I'll
say that.
What about you, Patrick?
Yeah, I agree with the points that you guys made. I mean, the beginning part, the how did it make me feel? It was creepy, just because I always get like eerie of, okay, what's the unseen disease that, I mean, I'm not a germaphobe by any stretch. Well, I suppose there's people that like don't care as much as I, that would call me that. But I mean, I'm not like, I don't need to live in a bubble, but just any of that stuff, 12 Monkeys, the new Planet, the Planet of the Apes, this latest trilogy, when they describe that, okay, we're going to wait for spoilers. Planet of the Apes. Is everybody okay? So in the first of the trilogy for Planet of the Apes, you guys have seen it, right? Jeez, I don't. Oh yeah, when they're sitting there and they're showing the disease and it spreads, and the end of it is just that like graphic that shows the disease spreading around the world. It's that kind of stuff that just, that's like, that'll get me. So this idea that, okay, how is this spreading? Why is this spreading? What is going on? And, that's kind of what creeped me out the most. And then I fell right into what Bo was, and John, both of you guys were saying, where it was just like, but then once you got past that, then it just became, silly. That was gone, and then it was like, okay, the monster's out there, and we got to take care of it. And honestly, I kind of felt like it was an Aliens ripoff.
Yeah, John had said the same thing today.
Yeah, that was probably my. If I'm thinking about what didn't work well, like how did this movie make me feel? Bo and I were talking earlier today about this, and I said, you know what? It made me feel like 20 minutes into this movie, not even halfway through, 20 minutes into this movie, I kind of was sitting there going, you know what? I wish I could just go watch the original Alien, because that's what this movie is. And I felt like part of this movie, Bo, I think this is how I told you earlier. I said, I felt like this movie, the people who were making it just sat there and said, hey, you know what? It's been 10 years since they made the Alien with Sigourney Weaver. I bet nobody remembers that. Let's go make the same thing, but underwater. And that, I mean, because this movie, there are so many times where this movie feels like it is a direct copy of Alien. So much of it is like a direct copy. You know, they go out in their suits that look like space suits. It just happen to be underwater. You know, that something happens to one of them, or they discover something, they bring it back with them. It happens to be infected. It just happens to be vodka instead of an egg. So you can decide whether you want to, you know, is alcohol good, alcohol bad, eggs are good, eggs are bad. You know, that kind of a thing. But they bring it back, they get infected by it. It starts spreading to other people on the ship, and it's more viral than Alien. But at the same time, you look at the crew, and you look at how they interact with each other, and you look at the beats of, you know, we're all, you know, somebody's going to be in the infirmary now, and we're going to try to study this thing. And there's a doctor who maybe seems like he might know more about this than he should. And he's kind of creeping around, and he'll betray everybody in the end, is exactly like the Ash android in Alien. So there's just so much of this movie in terms of the what didn't work for me. I'm not sure that I did enjoy this movie. There were moments as it got to the end, and they were trying to escape their ship or their base or whatever you want to call it. Some of that stuff was a little okay, but I think the B movie feeling, like you said it, Bo, I think that outweighed a lot of the fun parts for me. And I kind of lost it there towards the end. Was it funny when he, you know, had his line, and what is he said, say ah, and then I won't finish it, but
Yep.
And
say
then
ah,
and then threw the grenade in the thing's mouth and exploded. I think it got to the point where I just was like, you know what, it's Alien. It's just trying to copy Alien, and I can't get past it because I love Alien, one of my favorite movies ever, and I'm having a hard time getting past it. And so I'm having a hard time enjoying this one because I look at this creature and I'm like, oh man, it's just not, it didn't seem like there was a consistent design to the creature. It seemed like every time you saw it, it looked totally different. And then part of it was just the logic of the whole thing too, was, you know, if you have a scene where a tentacle gets chopped off and that can somehow regenerate an entire creature on its own, then I don't know, you shove a grenade in this thing's mouth at the end of the movie and you say, you know, say ah, and you blow it to pieces. Who's to say that now those like 152 pieces that are floating around the ocean are not going to create a whole bunch of little creatures that are going to spread and then all suddenly one day kill all of humanity?
Right.
So maybe, you know, maybe there's a Leviathan 2 that never got made, but I don't know. It's just some of that stuff. It was a little inconsistent in its own rules and mythology. And I don't know. I always liked, that was one of the things I always liked about the Alien movies, is there were some rules. You know, you had an egg, you had a face hugger. The face hugger gets onto a person, it implants the alien. Eventually, you know, a little while later, the alien's going to burst out through the chest. It's going to grow. It's going to do this. And it had a, you know, kind of a consistency to it, but not so much that you weren't scared or surprised or any of those things. And I just didn't get that from this movie. Now, what did work well for me was the interactions with the crew. Like, I thought that was great. I thought they did, like you were saying, this is a stellar cast of people. You know, this isn't your B movie cast of people. These are some good actors, and they worked really well together. Like, there was the writing and the dialogue and the way that they delivered their lines. It was very natural. You know, I pictured this as, I didn't picture these people as acting out a movie, whereas in a B movie, you can pretty much tell that they are actors in a movie. This, I felt like I was just watching something happen in front of me. And so that part of it, the way they all interacted with each other, that was great. So I was totally fine with that part. Really liked their characters. But when it came to the meat of this movie with the creature and everything else, I was just like, I just want to go watch Alien.
Mm-hmm. And all I could think about the whole time was the abyss. for next.
Well, there you go. Which I told you before, I still haven't seen yet. So
which blew me away. You're gonna love it.
Okay.
Yeah, this is great.
I'm looking forward to next week for that one. All right. So if this film was trying to teach us something, what do you think it was?
Don't go into a Russian ship that's been sitting on the bottom of the ocean for years. No, I think it's the classic. Don't go meddling where you don't belong, and test stuff before you open it up to the masses.
What was the doctor's Latin phrase? It was don't. I'll paraphrase it. Don't mess with nature.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there was some big social message in this one. It was just a situation that just kind of worked for this specific movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of felt like if they were trying to, and that's another part where I know I'm going to keep harping on this, but where it just seemed like it was trying to copy Alien was you have the evil company that seems to know more about what's going on with this than they're letting on, and they're willing to have their workers be expendable so that they can get this technology or this organism or whatever it is. And I'm like, that's straight out of Alien, like the company that you can't trust because they just want this for their bioweapons division or whatever. And yeah, so if it was something like that, then I'm like, you know what? It's already been done.
So let me ask that question. Let me see if I did I miss a hint here, or do we think that the company knew there was something down there, or do we think that they were just, oh, they're sick, we're going to leave them to die because that's just better for us?
Well, I felt like the company knew that there was something down there because they started on that, we can't come get you because there's a hurricane thing pretty early on.
I know. That's what I was trying to figure out.
And come to find out there was no hurricane. Probably there was no hurricane the entire time. So I don't know. To me, that started early enough that if they were just saying, oh, well, they're sick, we're going to leave them. I got the sense that maybe the company knew that there was already something going on down there. And maybe that they sent them there as a way, to try to collect this organism or to, bring it back up or whatever it might be. But I also don't think that thread was teased out enough from the writing and the script. And
yeah, and I felt they left that thing hanging about the fact that there's another ship called the Leviathan.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they could have done something with that too.
Right.
Well, and even the way they treated the company. I mean, the company was always like, the company hovered all over all the alien interactions, right? Like, and it would morph and in Alien, the company was what kind of put it there. Aliens, the company was sending them back, and whoever the one guy was, he was in Mad About You. What was his name? Paul Reiser.
Yeah.
Paul Reiser was supposed to be kind of like, yeah, don't worry, I'm on your side, but not really. I mean, the company, it was always the company, was just morphing into a different form that was causing the main character's problem. In this, the company was like responsible for it, but they just became a punchline. Like the end, he slugs the girl right in the face, and that was it. And it was just like, well, okay, that feels good from the bullheaded 14-year-old perspective. Yeah, but I mean, that's not like, okay, so now we're done here. I mean, like, this company is not this big, all-controlling entity and everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, they diminished it and made it a punchline. I mean, even Aliens, you get this claustrophobic feeling of, even when she's back, she's still, in the company office. She's still in the company apartment. It's all just a very claustrophobic. It feels like there's this big brother. In this, it ends in a seascape, so you feel completely free and open and all this kind of thing.
I guess, well, and I will jump in on that for a second, because when he punched her at the end of the movie, I had a really hard time with that. Mm-hmm. Like, that made me feel really uneasy, and I don't know if that's just 2019 me. I don't think so, but that as much as I'm like, you know what, down with the company, she's a horrible person, she almost got them killed, you lock her up and send her away somewhere and all that stuff. But when he punches her in the face, then I'm like, dude, no, that's not cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something about that. I'm just like, and it's, I don't want that to come across as, sexist or anything like that. But I'm like, you don't hit a woman in the face. You don't punch her in the face.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things you don't do, but you don't just ball up your fist and punch a woman in the face.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because we just went to what's it called? Jurassic World Live, the Jurassic World Live tour. Have you guys Jurassic World Live? Oh, hello?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. It just went off. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of Jurassic World Live, but it's very cool and it blends animatronics with people in dinosaur costumes and kind of like a fun, Jurassic World kind of offshoot story, and they're adventuring around islands. There's special effects. I mean, there's literally dudes on dirt bikes doing stoppies and wheelies, and I mean, it's a fun show, especially with the kids. It was fun.
Yeah.
But they also have some, staged fights, and they so there's a little something in it for everybody. And there's like, some martial arts stuff, and there's some people get knocked off and falling on crash pads, and it's cool. Okay, let me get to the point. One of the end sequences, and I'm going to pause again for spoilers in case someone's listening to this with kids and they're going to be seeing Jurassic World in the next week. Spoilers for the Jurassic World Live tour. Okay, you've been warned. One of the big fight things is a climactic thing. The main character is female, and the main bad guy is male. And they get into a fight, and there's like straight up like she's getting punched in the face, and she turns around and kicks him. And then it's just straight up they're going at each other. And it's funny because I was watching this, and nothing was over the top, because she gave as good as she got and all that. But I kind of looked at that, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. Mm-hmm. Not that I disapprove, because like I'm sitting right next to my daughter and I want her to be like, yeah, cheer for the girl. It's not like, that was all good. But it's funny because that was like the same thing. She was getting like, she would spin kick him, and then all of a sudden he'd slug her right in the jaw and put her down. And it was like, whoa.
No, See, for me, that would be a little bit different. Like I was thinking about, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, there was a movie that I saw, was it last year? Might have been longer ago, but did you guys ever see the movie Atomic Blonde?
Yeah, gosh.
With Charlize Theron? Yeah. That was either a year ago or a couple years ago now. And in that one, she's kind of a James Bond type character. And she just gets into this, Charlize Theron gets into this just knockdown, drag out, brutal fist fight, and just kicking and scratching and biting and clawing and punching, and just brutal fights. That's one of the things about that movie, is just the fight scenes are just intense. And to me, like I watched something like that, and I'm like, hey, you know what? She's given as good as she gets. This one was a sucker punch. And I think that's where I have a problem with it. I'm like, this is not two equal combatants going at each other with the expectation that they're going to have a fight. She's just walking along, and so she's a company goon, and she's a horrible human being, but he just sucker punches her in the face. And I don't know. I just had a really hard time with the context of that one. If they were, like in your case, Pat, if it was like two warriors going at each other, and one happened to be male and one happened to be female, so be it. This one, it just, as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, no, that feels very wrong down in the gut. All right. Do you think this movie would cause you to take any kind of action or live differently after you've watched it? I know that I'm going to go reappreciate my Alien Blu-ray a little bit more.
Yeah, it's going to tell me not to take a job in underwater mining. Not that I was thinking about doing it, but
right.
Still.
It's the same reason I'm never going to space.
There you go.
Not that I could pass any of the physical requirements, but
Details.
I'm right there with you. The only thing I have is like some joke in this movie.
Yeah.
That's kind of all I got.
Yeah. Would you watch this movie again?
I suppose if I was clicking around completely bored out of my mind and there was absolutely nothing else on, but I'm thinking an hour of the History Channel might be more exciting than this a second time through. So I would say no.
Yeah, I'd say no. I mean,
Yeah.
I was not impressed.
No, I think the only time I'm rewatching this one, if it's like 20 years from now and it's on like grandson of Svengoolie, then
there you go.
Then I'll watch it. But
Mystery Science Theater.
There you go. Mystery Science Theater 4000.
I think they're still.
Oh yeah, they're still making them.
Yeah, Netflix, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And it's just.
All right, well, I think it's probably time to switch over to Shocker. So let's switch over to Shocker now. So same questions. Let's start with this one. So this one, the Wes Craven movie Shocker. A little bit of quick background for this. When the Nightmare on Elm Street movies were not doing so well, Wes Craven said, hey, you know what? I kind of want to start a new thing because they kind of messed up my Freddy movies and they kind of turned them into a joke. So, let me start something new. So I think that's why you see a lot of similarities between the character of Freddy and the character of Horace Pinker. There's a lot of stuff in this movie. Now, in the one we just talked about, Leviathan, I kept saying it's Alien. It's basically Alien, but it's not as good, and it's underwater instead of space. This movie, there were a lot of things that as I'm watching, I'm going, you know what? That's very much Nightmare on Elm Street. That's Freddy. That's almost Freddy Krueger. A lot of stuff. But this time I didn't have a problem with it because I think I was having more fun with this movie. So to answer the initial question, first of all, basically what we've got here is we've got a kind of a serial killer, and he's going on a killing spree. And somehow this high school kid who's a football player seems to dream about the killer and knows where he's going to be. When he's finally caught and he's about to be executed, we see him in a jail cell, and he is performing some kind of satanic ritual and electrocuting himself. I'm trying to somehow get electrical powers or whatever it might be. Little did he know, all you have to do is be bitten by an electrical spider, and then it's all going to be totally fine. But then he continues to go on a killing spree, but now he has the ability to transfer from body to body and through electrical currents and things like that. So, and come to find out that the high school kid, the football player, is his son, from back when he had killed his wife and I think 2 other kids were in the family. He had killed them, and the son was the only one left because he had picked up a gun and shot his father in the knee. And years later, he's now coming back to try to get the boy. So that's a basic premise of Shocker. We'll start off with the first question. How did it make you feel? I really had a lot of fun watching this one. I had never seen it before. I tend to like some of Wes Craven's movies. Now, I haven't seen a lot of them. So my basis for comparison is basically Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream. So I really haven't seen too many of his movies, but I mean, I've seen a little bit of the Nightmare on Elm Street series, a few of them here and there, but I had a lot of fun with this one. The whole premise of it, it didn't take itself too seriously, so it was a little bit like the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff in that way. There were a few things here and there where I was like, you know what, it's not as scary. Like there was some stuff, it was suspenseful or it was gruesome, but it wasn't as scary as the Nightmare on Elm Street. So that part didn't work for me. I wasn't scared at all by this movie. But the part that I think did work well for me was the way that, it very much in the same way they started to do with the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I thought the visual effects for this were awesome. Like for a 1989 movie, what they were able to do visually, and the idea of passing through the TV world and just the kind of the whole story of this, and how they kind of drew out that story and what it was going to take to stop him, and how they did their battle towards the end of it. That part I thought was pretty cool. So I really enjoyed this one.
I agree. I enjoyed it as well. And I'll speak from I don't see horror movies and all that kind of thing. It's like a well thought out, well written story, special effects. I too really like that when they were battling through the different television programs. And I laughed out loud with the guy, and I mean, I knew it was coming, but when the guy was, the newscaster's like, we've seen the bad guy, and he seems to be getting into a titanic battle in several programs, and then all of a sudden they bust through and they're fighting on his news desk. I laughed. I mean, that was fun stuff.
Yeah.
I dug it.
Yeah, it was fun in that horror movie fun kind of way,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely held my attention, even though there were some spots where it definitely decided to drag on me.
Mm-hmm.
But then something interesting would happen. Alice Cooper would show up on screen.
Yeah.
It was Brent Spiner showed up on my screen. I'm like, whoa. Things like that keep you interested in a movie that might be running a little long.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very much agree.
I really thought it was interesting, those points that Alice Cooper was making about the history of Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
Yes.
Exactly.
The good land.
Yes. I think they did a really good job putting it together. I think for 1989, the effects were great. An interesting take on the genre, if I do say so myself.
Yeah. Do you feel like, so one of our other questions, if this film was trying to teach us something, what was it? Now, I almost want to kind of reword that, because I don't know that too many horror movies are trying to teach us anything. I think they're just trying to scare the pants off us.
Don't go in there. That's what the horror movies are trying to teach.
Don't go in there and don't watch TV, I guess is this one. But
don't go in there.
So is there some kind of, because sometimes you do. Sometimes you have horror movies that have a social message to them. Was there anything in this movie that, other than we're going to find creative ways to scare you, was there anything that you felt like you could pick up on and say, well, maybe they're trying to get across this message?
I didn't quite notice that anything. I'll tell you what, and this might be a tangent, so you can put this on hold. I felt like I'd seen this before. This plot, they were like, it was like Biff in the future, Back to the Future. There's something very familiar about all this. Mm-hmm. To the point where, and I know I haven't seen it before, but like to the point where it's like, oh yeah, this is what's going to happen next. And oh yeah, I can totally, like, he's going to do something and he's going to come back and be able to jump from bottom. Like, I don't know if it's a television show or something. I feel like I've seen like this before, like another version of this. So I'm just throwing that out there. Right. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It wasn't a Freddy Krueger movie, because I saw the parallels there. But like I said, there's something about this. I'm like, I've seen this before. Like, yeah. That's really weird. So anyways, back to your question. I really didn't see much in the way of a social commentary. Did you?
No, not from this one. I don't know that I don't think Wes Craven is too much into social commentary, or at least with some of his movies. Maybe with Scream. I think maybe Scream might have a little bit of a commentary in there, but yeah, I didn't, unless I just didn't pick up on it. And admittedly, I had run out of time to watch this movie, so I was kind of like watching it last minute while doing other things, and I just finished it earlier today, so there may have been some stuff that I missed in not getting to just like sit down and watch it without any other distractions. But no, I can't think, other than if you happen to be the abandoned son of a serial killer, run away.
Right.
Yeah. Other than that, I think with these movies, it's just the basic, we're going to find ways to terrify you, and the villain is going to come at you, and he's going to be relentless, and you just need to survive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's that YouTube kid that is, inspiring us to ride the bicycle and just believe in yourself and you can do it. Maybe that's the message, but I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Would you watch this one again?
Sure.
Yeah, I think I might. It's not one that you can watch right away again, just because, well, you know what's about to happen, so that makes it harder. But
yeah, I think I would. I mean, especially since I didn't get a chance to really just sit down and watch it. I would like to watch this one again, because I know that there were stretches of time where I had it playing while I was working on other things, and or I had it playing, at least the audio playing in the car while I was driving home, and stuff like that. So there are definitely some stretches that I missed the visuals, and this movie is a very visual movie, so I definitely would like to go back and just sit down and give it my full attention and watch it. Give it a second chance there. What I really, really liked was getting to see Skinner from the X-Files, but not like super straight-laced, super serious, no emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was fun. This is the only other thing that I can think of that I have seen him in. I've seen Basic Instinct, but I don't remember what he was in that movie. But just to see him as like a crazed serial killer, that was kind of fun. Because I'm used to seeing him as the Skinner character in the X-Files, and he's very straight-laced. He's very, everything's by the book, everything's this. And in this one, he was more like a Freddy Krueger kind of character.
Right.
He's got the quippy one-liners. He's, this crazed killer trying to, just murder as many people as he can. And yeah, so it was kind of fun to get to see him in a different way.
I'm going to tell you what cracks me up is whenever you get these crazed ghost serial killers and all this kind of stuff, when they start swearing, that makes me laugh. And I don't know why, but it's like laugh out loud funny. Mm-hmm. And I remember that a little bit with Freddy. Well, Freddy Krueger, I don't know. Something about this when he's chasing the guy down and he calls him an a-hole, that makes me laugh. I don't know why, because that's just funny to me. It's sort of like, okay, well, you're in the spirit world now. We're in the spirit world now, Chavez. But I mean, it's like, why would you be swearing? Like, I don't know why, but that just cracks me up.
Yeah.
When the bad guys like that are swearing, it just makes me laugh.
Yeah. All right. Well, are we ready for our combined 5 questions here?
I want to play a game. Our future traveler 5 questions. What's your favorite scary movie?
Well, were they psychos or?
They look like psychos? Is that what they look like? They were vampires. Psychos do not explode when sunlight hits them. I don't give a how crazy they are.
Please, mister, this is insane. Boy, the next word that comes out of your mouth better be some brilliant, because it's definitely getting chiseled on your tombstone.
5 questions. All right. So not 10 questions this time, just 5 for these 2 movies. So we've kind of mixed them up just a little bit. So question number 1, what is your favorite movie where possession, so someone being possessed either by the spirit or the soul or the whatever of someone else, what is your favorite possession-themed movie, show, or story? And I already know mine, so I'll go ahead and do mine. Mine is probably, although I love a good, Star Trek 3, any of The Exorcist is a great horror movie. But the one I'm going to go with is one that I don't feel like a ton of people know about, and I don't remember how I came across this movie, but I have it on DVD. I remember really enjoying it back when I first got it, and I'd watch it a lot back in high school, is the movie Fallen with, I think it's Donald Sutherland, John Goodman, and Denzel Washington. Have either of you guys seen that one?
It doesn't ring a bell.
Oh, it's good stuff. If you want it, I'll let you borrow it sometime. Basically what it is Denzel Washington is a detective or a cop. I think Donald Sutherland is his boss, and John Goodman, I believe, is his partner. And the premise of the movie is he put away a serial killer, and the serial killer was being executed. So very similar to this movie. And I almost feel like that movie might have gotten some beats from this movie, because the serial killer then is going to be executed. And what you find out is this serial killer, he whistles, what was the song? Time Is on My Side by the Rolling Stones all the time. So it's like his favorite song or something. So he's constantly singing or whistling this song. And when he's executed, you find that his spirit leaves his body and it can inhabit anyone else who's nearby. And come to find out that the person who was executed was not really a serial killer, but this was a demon who has the ability to inhabit any body that he touches, or if the body happens to die, then he has like 20 seconds to find another body somewhere nearby and inhabit it. So you have one of my favorite parts in the movie is you have this scene where Denzel Washington's character kind of realizes what's going on. So it's this movie that has kind of a spiritual aspect to it with the demon possession part, but it's also like a crime drama, mystery type movie. And you have this scene where Denzel Washington is chasing who he thinks is, or who is, possessed by this demon into the street. And all of a sudden, the demon touches someone else and it passes to that person. And that person starts whistling Time Is on My Side. And they touch another person and they stop whistling and the next person starts whistling. And it's just, there's some creepy moments with how that's played out. And it's really cool the way that they do it.
Nice.
But it reminds me a lot of some of the stuff I saw in this movie. Now, obviously, I saw Fallen first, but knowing that this movie came out probably close to 10 years before Fallen, I look at that and I go, oh, okay, I can kind of see the people who made Fallen were probably fans of this movie. So do you guys have a favorite possession-themed movie?
I'm gonna let Bo go first because I don't want to accidentally steal his stuff.
Okay, and I will not accept the movie Possession starring Gwyneth Paltrow.
Okay, I'm out.
Okay.
So I had two really, but I'll say one and then I'll come back to the other one if Pat doesn't take it. But Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Is one of mine. It's just a good old fashioned. Everybody's possessed off and on, you know.
We will swallow your soul.
Yeah, just like that.
Come get some.
Yes. What was your number two, Bo?
Well, it's sort of out there, but Spaceballs, right at the end. Hello, my baby.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
Well played. Okay, here's my dilemma, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my dilemma.
You don't watch these movies.
I don't watch these movies. So here's my list, right? Okay. Temple of Doom.
Okay.
Nice.
Temple of Doom is up there. I mean, you know, love Indiana Jones movies, so that easily went on there. And then I'm like, wait a minute, The Matrix. I mean, if we think about it, the agents can jump in and out of. The agents can jump in and again, the spoilers. Wait a minute, hang on. A bunch of you guys haven't seen The Matrix. John, did you see Matrix?
Oh yeah. No, I've seen them many times.
That's got to be Jeff that hasn't seen it.
Okay, I knew Jeff, but
no, I've seen. Yeah, no.
You've seen all the because I just want. So there's no chance of me spoiling anything.
Oh no.
No.
Okay, well then when Agent Smith gets out of the Matrix, I thought that was really cool when he comes out of the Matrix and possesses the one guy. So like that works. So I mean, I was going to put Matrix up there.
Yeah.
But I have to be honest with you. I'm just going to list every single Star Trek series and some of the movies.
There you go.
Because I went to lists of episodes. I can't pick a favorite. Each one, that the way they do that is creepy and it works, and it's all a little bit different. Whether it's an alien entity that, you know, what is it they found in the one? They found the Paxons that were incredibly xenophobic, and they had to wipe everybody's memory, and they talked by possessing Troy. And
yeah, there were all sorts of possessions in Star Trek. Especially, it seemed like the Next Generation, people like to get taken over mentally a lot.
But think of Deep Space Nine when they found that one capsule. Do you remember they found that one capsule and like they all started exhibiting signs of it was what was it? It was a Klingon ship, wasn't it? Or something that they found. It came through the wormhole and it was pirouetting through space, or it came through the wormhole and it decloaked and blew up. And then there was some kind of a virus that got on board, and then each person on board would exhibit signs. Remember, Cisco just sat in his office making clocks.
Yeah.
That one was unbelievable. Voyager had it where they went to the one planet, and the war memorial, if you came within distance, it would like take your mind and put you back in the story to tell about the massacre. Remember that one? I mean, that was like, and then these guys were like, they had this post-traumatic stress disorder because, you know, they were brought into the story. I mean, that was amazing. You remember, you know, I guess it wasn't quite possession, but you remember the probe that hit Picard and brought him in, and it encapsulated the whole culture. I mean, and honestly, I mean, you mentioned like Search for Spock. You know, like, I mean, I suppose this is a stretch, but the worms and Wrath of Khan that cause you to like be very suggestible. Okay. Yeah. And then, well, you know, Voyager, or not Voyager, but V'ger. I mean, didn't V'ger turn the one, Ilani or whatever her name was? It turned her into the, you know, it did that whole thing. Basically the Borg Collective is one whole big, you know, like zombie type takeover thing. And I'm going to go all the way back to the one that I still like. It's dark and I cannot watch this episode, but do you remember the original series? The, what was it? The Killer Among Us or whatever the heck it is, but they go and they find Scotty is accused of murder because the lights went out and he had the knife in his hand. But then all of a sudden they find it was the other guy. But then when they examine it, it was Jack the Ripper from Earth, and Jack the Ripper was some entity that was traveling around space. That was an incredible story. Oh my God, it was incredible. And I mean, I remember seeing that as a kid. And you know what I'm like now is a slightly older kid. I saw that when I was like 8 or 9 years old. I didn't sleep for a month. I mean, that totally terrified me. So I'm sorry. This is the 5 questions and I'm just going off. But I just find what Star Trek has done on all their different episodes and all their different everything. I just find it fascinating. I just find it's awesome.
Right on.
Nice.
Yeah, I love it. I love all of them. Sorry, guys, I got excited.
No,
nothing wrong with that.
That's what we're here for.
Excitement. I know.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, favorite Wes Craven movie. Question number 2. Favorite Wes Craven movie. I'm probably going to have to go with the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Like I said before, I haven't seen a ton of his movies. I know of a lot of them. I've seen bits and pieces of some of them, but of the ones that I've watched all the way through and could tell you enough about the movie to sound knowledgeable, it would have to be either Nightmare on Elm Street, Shocker, or Scream. And I did just watch Scream for the first time a few weeks ago, and I really enjoyed it. I never watched any of that series before they came out, and I wanted to continue watching the series, but apparently the only ones that were available on the streaming services that I subscribed to were Scream 1, 3, 4, 5. Apparently 2 was missing, or 2 was not on the service that I happened to subscribe to. So I'm like, well, that's stupid. I'm not going from 1 to 3 and then back to 2 again. So I've put that on hold until I can find 2 somewhere. But I think I'm going to go original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, I don't watch much Wes Craven either, so I had to go to his IMDb page just to see. And it's a bit of a stretch because he didn't write this one, but he did direct it. And it's not a traditional Wes Craven by any stretch of the imagination. He is the director of one of my favorite vampire movies, A Vampire in Brooklyn, starring Eddie Murphy.
Oh, is he? Oh, I didn't realize he was director of that one.
And I love that movie. It is a great, just silly vampire movie. I love it.
I remember that one.
So I'm going to go with Vampire in Brooklyn.
Okay.
I am going to be as concise with this one as I was verbose with the other one. I haven't seen a lot of his movies, so I really can't hazard a guess. The stuff I've seen, I've enjoyed. But I don't really have much in the way of, that's my favorite kind of thing.
Well, question number 3. What is your favorite movie with a killer alien / mutant of some kind? Mine's easy. Alien.
I'd have to second that. I can't think of anything else. I mean, that's, I suppose of if I had to specify, I'd say Aliens. Okay. I really dug that one.
I'd have to go with one of the spookiest movies I think I've ever watched, and it's still, even just thinking about it, puts a chill down my spine. Event Horizon.
Oh, see, okay. Is that an alien?
Yeah, it's got to be something.
Okay, I thought it was a demon.
Well, demon, alien.
Okay, all right. I give it to you.
It may be stretching the definition, but it came from outer space. Gosh darn it!
What? Yeah, yes, it did, and that's one of the reasons I don't want to ever go to space.
How about it?
Is because of that movie that I don't remember what I was looking at the other day, but that movie showed up. It might have been Amazon Prime or one of the other things, and I happened to be looking through, and that movie came up as one of the options, and I was like, no. I might have even thrown the remote.
Yeah, that's bad news, man. You got to watch that with the sun out, the lights on, a blanket, and
so Pat, you've got about 8 years until we get to that one.
I know, because you guys have just done nothing but talk about that one and how.
I think it's 97. I think it's 97.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I have it up in my IMDb right now.
Okay. So, Pat, when it comes time to watch that one, why don't we just watch it together?
Yeah, watch it with somebody, brother.
Because why don't we? I think we should just do that. I think we should all get together. I think we can all get together and at someone's house, we'll watch that together. So there's safety in numbers, and then we can maybe talk about it if we're able to speak when it's all done.
The cast is awesome. Lawrence Fishburne,
Oh, yeah.
Sam Neill, Jason Isaacs. I mean, it is some serious stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Kathleen Quinlan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's good stuff, but man.
Oh.
Yeesh. You know what it does, Pat? It goes kind of to what I said when we talked about Leviathan. It never shows the thing.
Okay.
And that's what makes it spooky. Like,
got it.
You know, Leviathan, once you see the rubbery faces, you're like, oh, okay.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Never shows a thing.
No. Yeah. It's, all right. Can't wait for that one.
Yeah.
All right. We got 8 years. I got 8 years to build up enough courage to watch that one again. And I think do I own a copy of it? I don't think I own a copy of it. I think just to keep the bad mojo out of the house.
I was going to say, I don't think I could see the spine of that DVD staring out at me from a shelf. I don't know if it would work for me.
It used to. I used to have it on VHS, but I don't think I've replaced it. I don't know. I might have done some kind of ceremony to send it back to the netherworld from whence it came. But no, I don't think I own that one on DVD.
Totally off schedule, because this should have come up at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But I am on IMDb, and the little ad wrapper advertising something that is on right now on HBO. Tonight, I believe, is the premiere of His Dark Materials, based on the universe that the Golden Compass movie was from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
oh, cool.
New things that are on television.
Question number 4. Which kind of, because this is kind of a running theme with some of these movies, which kind of research or salvage crew would you rather work on? Space, from Alien, the Arctic, The Thing, or underwater, Leviathan? So if you had to work as some kind of a research or salvage crew, would you rather be in space, the Arctic, or underwater?
I gotta say Arctic, at least you can breathe there.
Correct. That is the only correct answer.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Like, I'm like, I yeah, so it gets cold, just put more layers on,
Right, like the only thing between me and death is this little pane of glass. No. That's okay.
Because the other two are too claustrophobic. It's either space and there's nowhere else to go.
Or a little suit and that.
And granted, the thing is probably going to catch me, but at the very least, I mean, if I'm outside like running in the well, again, we've established I'm not going to run. I'm just going to turn and fight and end it quickly.
Right.
But,
but chances are someone else is going to get away because we're going to turn and fight. Correct.
Like I may trip somebody so that it catches them first, and that at least gives me a little bit of a head start to get away. But if I'm in space, I'm dead. If I'm underwater, I'm dead. Yeah, I think the Arctic is the only correct answer here. But if you have a different answer, feel free.
That's what I got.
Okay. All right. Then finally, question number 5. In movies where military-type characters have nicknames, what's your favorite nickname?
So if we broaden it to TV, I have a couple. If we stick to movies, I have one, but I'll wait till the end on that one.
No, you could do TV.
Oh, well then, there was a show called The Unit, and it was all about a SEAL team style unit.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guys, his nickname was Cool Breeze.
Pat, you're a Top Gun fan. What's your favorite nickname?
You got that. I mean, I tried to come up with something, and I'm like, and I went through like Full Metal Jacket, the one guy, Animal Mother. I mean, like, I don't even know. I mean, that cracks me up and everything like that. And I went through all the different ones, and then I wanted to like just have a reason to talk about Dunkirk again. So I'm just like, those 3 Spitfires, Fortis 1, Fortis 2, that. But then I'm like, well, I just got to go with Maverick and Goose. I mean, even growing up, I mean, that was just great. Maverick and Goose. I mean, that was my first introduction that that you had call signs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was that's just awesome.
I think just in terms of the call sign itself, I think one of my favorites, and I would just be curious to know the backstory of how he got this name. But I always thought Jester from Top Gun was just kind of a fun nickname, fun call sign for him. The one, if I was going to be a little bit funnier with this, I would go with Dan the Man Leviathan from Good Morning Vietnam.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I Jester, and I would just knowing, and I'm pretty certain it was a sarcastic call sign.
Uh-huh.
But knowing that, Ironside is the jester, I'm like, I would be very curious to know how he got that name.
I've heard some, I've seen some documentaries and stuff, and they're like, yeah, my call sign's this, and like they said, someone dropped the hint or dropped the thing that said, yeah, you don't usually get to pick your call sign. It's you do something stupid and that becomes your call sign.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us for Leviathan and Shocker. So very, very quickly before we do go, and sometimes I forget to do this, so I'm going to try not to forget to do it tonight. So, gentlemen, if you had to give, let's start with Leviathan. If you had to give Leviathan a score out of 5, what would you give Leviathan? If it was, let's say, out of 5 severed tentacles, how many severed tentacles would you give Leviathan?
I'd give it 2.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what I would say too. It's not terrible. The acting holds it a little.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ripoff of Alien.
Yeah.
And it's the end. It's the end when they're all sitting there and suddenly the sharks come up and you get a minute of sharks swimming by people's legs, and then the sharks are gone, and then the thing pops up and you get a minute of that thing and screaming and pulling people into the water, and then the grenade. I mean, it's kind of real, and then he slugs the gal in the head, and it's like in the face. It's like, really, guy? I mean, like, was it just you're like, oh, we got to get these things in? Like, why is it? Why? Yeah.
All right. What about Shocker? Out of 5 possessed remote controls, what would you give Shocker?
About 3 remote controls and half a tub of popcorn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I go with that.
So for a total of 3.5?
Yeah.
Okay, that's exactly what I gave it to. So.
Yeah, I go with that as well.
All right, we're nothing if not consistent here on the 30-something movie podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, that's going to do it for us this time around. So if you want to reach out to us, you can go to our website, 30podcast.com. We're on Twitter, @30podcast. Most of the social medias, we're at @30podcast. Our voicemail line, if you want to call in, we've had a few people call in lately, is 872-356-6843. We'd love to hear from you. Our next episode's coming up. We will, even though this is coming out the first week of November, we'll be getting to our official November movies. We're doing The Abyss, Back to the Future 2, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and Star Trek V: The Final Frontier.
All that is up in November?
What's that?
I said all of that is coming up in November?
All of that is coming up in November.
Oh my goodness.
November is and we've had a few of our listeners, not that they're saying like, well, the show's gone downhill, but we've had some listeners comment and say it's been a bit of a rough patch of movies. And I will absolutely be one of the first ones to admit that this year, these movies for Halloween, for the month of October, this was probably the first time that I had not really seen any of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was a slog this time through.
It was. And I was going into these, and I really tried to go into these without looking up too much before watching them and before, putting them on the list. When we put the list together, I was like, okay, well, these tend to be ones that are pretty well known, or these get, I'd look up some websites and they'd say things like, top 10 horror movies from the late 80s. And okay, well, this one's on here, so let's put it on the list. But man, this October was really, I'd like to say it's hit or miss, but it was a whole bunch of misses and maybe like 1 or 1.5 hits. So yeah, it was, it's been in October. Well, but we're in November now. We're in November now, and November is The Abyss, Back to the Future 2, Bill and Ted, and Star Trek V, which I don't know if Star Trek V fits in well with that, but...
Oh, Star Trek V is wonderful.
It has fun moments.
Honestly, I have a completely newfound respect for that movie.
Okay.
So I just emailed you all a link to a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys I like to listen to who do my Star Trek The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine podcast also do a war movie podcast I think I've brought up a few times in the past.
Yeah.
So they did Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, nice.
They had a little fun with it. I think I put the caveat in there. If Raiders is something that is so near and dear to your heart that you can't stand it to be poked fun at, maybe don't listen, because they do that. But I thought it was a very good take on it. They did a live show of Star Trek V and I was not expecting. I was expecting them to just rip it down. But they found some real interesting things to say about it, and to say I have a newfound interest in that movie is putting it mildly.
Well, now I'm all curious. I mean, John, I don't want to. I mean, you're in command there, and Bo, I don't know if you're at liberty to say, but can you kind of?
They sort of went into
high point, or
well, they focused at one point, and they do a really good job of segmenting their show, where they talk about messages, morals, and meanings. And yeah, believe me, there's a lot of production issues with Star Trek V. I mean, we could go on. But they took a few minutes to focus on the whole aspect of God and not what does he need with a starship, although they did mention that. But they just took some time to focus on the whole aspect of pain, and do you need your pain? Does that make you who you are? And some of the heavier themes of that movie that it's really easy not to want to pick up on because the movie itself is so cornball half the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so cheesy in places. But if you strip away some of that, there is some powerful stuff there.
Oh no! For as much as I make fun of it, it's got some pretty deep stuff for a Star Trek movie. It does some stuff that no other Star Trek movie does.
Agree, and that's a perfect way. That's the way they put it. They're like, no other movie touches on some of this, and you kick back for a minute, and you're like, Star Trek V may be the most like an episode of the original series of any of those movies.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
And it was one of those, I'm sitting there, and I tend to listen to these in my car when I'm driving somewhere, and I just kind of had one of those moments, like you're sitting, you're by yourself, you're sitting in your car, and you just sort of go, huh.
Yeah.
I guess I never really processed it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot more going on there. I can't wait to watch it again now after hearing that.
Well, I remember watching it. I think I watched it maybe about a year ago. It's probably about a year ago. And that was the first time in several years that I watched it. And I knew going into it, everybody makes fun of it.
And rightfully so. Don't get me wrong. There's
there's plenty of reasons to make fun of that movie. But I remember watching it, and I remember thinking that I was like, you know what? There's a lot more going on. Like, there is definitely stuff. I like having him put that way, that it's most like the original series, because now that you said that, I'm like, yeah, it totally is. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on that the other movies just don't pick up on some of that. They don't go that route. And it's just, if nothing else, if you wanted to just say, you know what, they have these movies that are, 2, 3, and 4, it's all part of a story.
It's a trilogy. It's its own thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you've got these other movies that are part of the larger mythology of the humans versus Klingons and all this stuff, or bridging the gap between original and next generation. But then Star Trek V just kind of, in some ways, I almost think Star Trek V fits really well also with the Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Yes.
That they have a similar, and maybe that's why people don't like them as much, is, Star Trek the Motion Picture, I think of that one as being, it feels like for a Star Trek movie, a very slow moving movie.
If we ever do,
but it deals with a lot of kind of heavy stuff, and 5 is not as slow moving, but it's got some, like you said, cornball stuff, but it still deals with some fairly heavy stuff.
If we ever do another movies we missed, I might do the motion picture.
Okay.
Because when it played, Fathom Events just did it.
Okay.
Recently. And we went and saw it, and sidebar, boo to you, Fathom Events, A, for not showing the director's cut, B, for not even getting a good print. I mean, it was terrible. But that's not the point here. Yeah. But it's another one where you start to explore the themes of that. Mm-hmm. That this probe that we sent off has now returned to us after gathering the knowledge of the universe.
Ooh, there's your Possession movie.
Right? Well, Pat mentioned it.
Yeah.
He mentioned Ilea, and he did.
Yeah, I did. You did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now it has all of this knowledge, but it doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So it's come back to say, help me deal with this. Because the raw knowledge isn't all you need to be a being.
Mm-hmm.
It needs more, and it knows where to get it.
Yeah.
And that just... Maybe it's just being older, maybe it's hearing other people talk about it, but it definitely puts those two movies in a different perspective.
Yeah. All right. Well, and if you're also looking way ahead, if you want to get on into December, we have got... December is going to be a great one, too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Christmas Vacation, Say Anything, When Harry Met Sally, and then, of course, The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh,
wow.
But just Christmas Vacation and When Harry Met Sally is enough to keep me interested.
Oh, can't see the line, can you?
Can't see the line, can you? No. God, I love that movie.
Oh,
I mean, that's it every year, Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
Got to watch at least once.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this time around. So thank you, Bo. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
We will see you all back here next time for The Abyss, and then get yourselves ready for Back to the Future 2, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and Star Trek V.
One of the best months of November you've ever had.
I know. I'm really looking after the movies we've had lately. I'm kind of looking forward to getting into November and December. It's going to be a good way to end the year and end the 80s.
Yeah, really. From Little Monsters on, with the exception of the Joker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And actually, you could go back to No Holds Barred and Dream a Little Dream, and it's been a rough go.
Yeah, we've watched a lot of junk lately.
Yeah, I think November and December are going to redeem 1989.
These are our palate cleansers before we finish out the 80s.
Right.
So, all right. Well, everybody, be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies, and we will see you back here next time.
Good night, everybody.